You're very welcome back. Now, daylight savings kicks in at 2 a.m. tonight, meaning clocks fall back. So from tomorrow, our evenings are set to get darker faster.
But how will this affect our sleeping patterns? When Deirdre McSweeney, cognitive behaviour therapist for insomnia, joins us. Good morning, Deirdre. You're very welcome along.
Hi, Deirdre.
Hello, Sam. Hello, Anna.
Do we all make a bit too much about this clock changing in terms of our sleep patterns, or does it actually affect our mindset in terms of our sleep patterns, Deirdre?
Well, to be honest with you, a lot of data is out there about its effects and how, it can actually last for people for several days in a row. Personally speaking, and from my own practice kind of experience, it doesn't really have too much of an impact at all. It is only 1 hour when you think about it. And actually, if you often think about taking families off for holidays in different parts of Europe, where they can be an hour ahead of us, we never even think about those times that actual gain of an hour, just because you've taken a flight, has that much impact on us.
OK.
That's a very fair point, Deirdre. Maybe we overthink it. We have questions in from our viewers, so we'll get straight into those, Deirdre. This is Derek in Leitrim, and he's asking, am I likely to get more tired in the evenings now that it'll be dark from 5 p.m?
Well, it's an interesting question, actually, because one of the things that occurs to us in the evening is the fact that our melatonin, which is generated in a little gland deep in our brain, starts to respond to the colour of the sky. So melatonin is called the hormone of darkness, and that's what gives us the hints of when to sleep and how much to sleep. But with this evenings getting darker earlier, obviously, we might get that sensation that we are getting sleepier earlier. But again, that's just something to watch out for. Try and keep to your own routine as best as you can. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to feel tireder.
OK. No. We have a question in from Aisling, Deirdre, who has two kids who are 6 and 3, and she wants to know that she said her children's body clocks are used to going to bed at a certain time. So how will I get them used to going to bed with the changing clock?
Well, the funny bit is really that a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old doesn't even know what the clock means.
Yeah, that's
because
really,
that's the wonderful thing. That's the wonderful thing about watching children and watching children fall asleep. It just happens for them. Their eyes close and everything goes into dreamland for them. So really, it's a case that if things are very routine in the household, which they have to be for so many people, OK, worry about pushing their bedtime out a little bit by, say, 15, 20 minutes for 2 or 3 days in a row, or vice versa in getting them up earlier.
OK.
OK,
fair enough. It really should not have that much of an impact, I have to say.
Good, good.
And I think people are worried about it, and maybe that doesn't help our sleep either, because Ursula in Ballinasloe is saying, does daylight savings do more harm than good to our sleep pattern, Deirdre?
Very little impact, actually. And I mean, the whole idea behind daylight savings was actually an economic one. I mean, it goes back to the 17th, 18th century. Benjamin Franklin introduced it because he was hoping that people would be able to cut back on using candles. So it was a case of an energy-saving patterning to develop. It had nothing to do with the impact it had on people and their physiology. Mind you, at the time and throughout the centuries up to today, farmers were the ones that were actually the ones making the biggest bulk of protest with regard to this, because they did find naturally they had shorter times in the fields, and also they actually felt it impacted on some of their animals, and for example with dairy cattle their output was reduced.
Wow, OK. Frank in Temple Oaks seems to have this whole sleeping thing sussed. He says, I'm lucky in that I can sleep anytime, anywhere. Well, for you. But he says, is there such thing as getting too much sleep? Question my mother often asked when I was a teenager.
Well, that's because she wanted you out of bed.
Exactly.
No, I mean, getting too much sleep, what is that definition really? A lot of people do talk about waking up feeling very groggy in the mornings. And when you actually extricate the kind of time and the history and the amount of time that people pin into their bedtime. In terms of numbers of hours, that can certainly feel like it can be too much. I do have to say, the human is entitled to a certain optimum amount of sleep, and that is where you do not suffer with any daytime functioning, that sleep does not become a stressful factor for you. As I told you before, I mean, a lot of people with trouble with their sleep, they become obsessed by it to the point that they're almost thinking about their next night's sleep the minute they waken in the morning, because it becomes so distressing for them. So with regard to feeling like you are having too much sleep, perhaps it's just a case that you're waking in the morning in a stage of sleep that isn't to the end of a particular cycle of sleep, because all of us should be aroused into morning wakefulness by both light coming into the sky, which of course is what we're talking about, because that's going to be diminished for us now shortly, but also we're coming in sleep physiology terms, we're coming near the end of a sleep cycle into the last of our dream periods. And we waken out of, or are aroused out of, that particular dream period. That's why if people are the type that remember their dreams, that's the one they're going to remember, not the one that occurred within an hour and a half of falling asleep.
But we've heard before, and is it true that it's about the quality of the sleep and not the quantity of the sleep?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
So it's whether you're getting a good deep sleep or not.
There's nothing you can do to control quality. No. It happens all by itself.
It's automatic. You've led in nicely, Deirdre, to Lisa's question. She's in Clonakilty, and she's wondering, is sleep different between men and women? I feel my husband has been sleeping easier throughout lockdown. She sounds a bit bitter about that. Or is it just me rather than all women?
I am not getting into a domestic situation.
No.
Is sleep different between men and women? The answer is actually no, in my view. And certainly I know that people who turn up with an insomnia type condition over the age of 60, the numbers are equal, men to women. Before that, it might be a case that women tend to seek help for their sleep difficulties earlier than men do.
Right, and last but by no means least, this anonymous text says, I've been drinking more than usual during lockdown. I feel that even after a full night's sleep, I'm groggy the next day. Does alcohol affect sleep?
Yeah, that's a very interesting one, actually, Simon, because, we are all tending to do that. The situation is that alcohol does affect our sleep in a negative way by fragmenting our sleep. And it's interesting that he's saying, he can get off to bed and off to sleep and all the rest. But sure enough, a couple of glasses of wine or a couple of beers or whatever can make us feel that we're going to fall into bed and have a lovely deep sleep, which we do at the beginning of the night. But as alcohol is processed in our system, our physiology will sort of start alerting us as it's used up in our system, basically. So you'll waken up wanting to use the bathroom more often than you would without alcohol.
So it fragments the sleep, which then that leads to you feeling groggy the next day. Listen, we're right out of time, Deirdre. Thank you so much for the advice. Great talking to you.
Thank you, Deirdre.
Okay.
Take care.
Take care.
Now, still to come.
She's very good.
Isn't she? Right, I'm going to get to bed earlier. Oscar nominee Stephen Ray will be joining us, and we'll be looking ahead to today's Six Nations clash with John the Bull Hayes. See you soon.